In 2025, the greatest weapon is not a virus, not a gun, but an AI.
CEO, I hereby authorize the transfer of $5 million into my HSBC bank account, 5523.
This is a deepfake video generated in just 5 minutes with no cost. Ladies and gentlemen, the cost of an attack on our bank and on our customers' trust has just plummeted to zero. A fraudster can now clone a voice, forge a face, and even launch a new attack that we have never seen before. Innovative AI fraud methods are evolving at lightning speed nowadays. So how can HSBC systematically identify and neutralize novel AI-powered fraud methods before they cause a harm? Today, we are so excited to introduce HSB Contest, a global hackathon that can help you reduce 53,000 AI-driven fraud incidents. Currently, there are 3 main types of AI fraud in the banking industry, including AI identity for account opening, account takeover, and transaction fraud. HSBC has different defense strategies. For example, AI-powered fraud detection system, real-time transaction monitoring, and new verification method like user behavior analysis. And our team also makes 8,000 system modifications per week. However, does this mean that HSBC have enough capability to counter more sophisticated AI fraud? Indeed, HSBC has a strong IT and cybersecurity system. However, there are 3 fundamental problems. Firstly, it is too reactive. It only specializes in detecting historical fraud. That's why we are always one step behind to stop the fraud. Secondly, the data is too siloed, limited, and outdated to train and optimize our fraud detection system. Thirdly, there's a blind spot. Our team is constrained by organizational pattern, and it is very hard to replicate the creativity of external hackers. Therefore, our coming strategy should be proactive and be able for data collection and diverse ideation. We have evaluated into different solutions. Firstly, for new verification methods like digital DNA or multimodal data. They don't fit into any of our criteria. More importantly, HSBC has no expertise to do that, and it is annoying for clients to adapt to new methods. While for using Gen AI to simulate attacks, even though being proactive, our data is too limited and outdated to achieve a good result. Thirdly, for fraud data sharing with banks, even though we can help collect different new data, there's no incentive for other banks to partner with us, and there are privacy and competition issues. Therefore, we think that cybersecurity hackathon is the best solution, because simulated attack can proactively build an immunity beforehand. And by organizing seasonally, we can also collect fresh fraud data. And we also invite all experts to find loopholes together, which enables diverse ideation. More importantly, this is your core competence, as you are open to innovation and young talent, just like we are standing here for HKICC today. So Ivana, how can we implement this?
Thank you, Chloe. To build a proactive, up-to-date, and crowdsourced fraud management system, we now introduce HSB Contest, a global hackathon which crowdsourced ethical hackers to find and fix cybersecurity issues before fraudsters do. This is a 1-week hackathon which simulates the actual AI fraud. And this would achieve an overall impact to reduce and identify vulnerabilities that leads to cost savings by reducing frauds. But this hackathon itself sounds too cliche. First, let's take a look at some successful examples from renowned companies like Apple and Google. They both have implemented a bounty reward system that rewards individuals if they have successfully helped these companies to identify flaws. This would ensure that these companies are able to discover the critical threats before they cause widespread damage. With these successful examples in mind, how could HSBC construct its own hackathon? Let's have a look. So, Anna is a 24-year-old cybersecurity and Gen AI expert who is also an ethical hacker, and she's exactly who HSBC wants to attract. So how should we capture the attention of Anna? By placing advertisements on targeted platforms like HackerOne, where the cybersecurity elites gather, we could place HSB Contest right accessible to the eyes of our targeted group. So for example, one day, Anna saw on HackerOne about this competition and she's extremely attracted by the massive cash prize. She also finds herself the exactly right candidate to join as a Gen AI expert. Therefore, she decided to apply. And after this, HSBC received a lot of applications and needs to select the top 20 people into the hackathon. And their job would be to hack into this digital twin that is built as a replica of HSBC actual system. Here's more about the digital twin. This digital twin should be built that simulates the actual scenario where fraud occurs. And as we have identified, these scenarios include account opening, account takeover, as well as transaction fraud. With these three scenarios, Anna's task now would be to bypass the system so that HSBC could collect data about how an actual fraud works. And to ensure safety of the breach, this digital twin should be built as a controlled and isolated environment from the rest of its HSBC system. And we are doing this by having collaboration with simulation engines such as SafeBridge so that we can accurately model the attack scenario. And to prevent the risk of risking customers' privacy and data, we could ensure a synthetic data that will not disclose any or expose any real data to our participants. This will ensure proactiveness to discover the system's vulnerability without compromising the actual HSBC system. So now, everything is set. How should HSBC further safeguard itself? Before Anna joins the hackathon, she now needs to sign an NDA to ensure confidentiality. And she is now legally obligated to disclose all information she has found, such as the deepfake techniques and loopholes discovered for the transfer of IP back to HSBC. This would prevent data leakages to ensure proactive protection of HSBC, which further strengthens public trust. But how do we ensure further violation of the contract? The entire competition would be hosted entirely under HSBC's facilities and network for comprehensive monitoring and tracking of the attempts so that HSBC would know everything. As the competition ongoes, and fortunately, Anna has successfully found a loophole. What should HSBC do next? Of course, the first step is to verify the procedure to the simulation and actually bypass the digital twin. But what about to the actual real-world scenario? HSBC internal teams would need to verify the process by replicating all procedures back to the actual system to test the results. The results could either work, and now HSBC would have accomplished its goals by successfully detecting and identifying a real fraud. But even if it does not, a failure would also provide an opportunity for HSBC to evaluate discrepancies. For both results, HSBC would still gain an advantage as participants now provide so much valuable insights for systems upgrade of cybersecurity. So, Anna has already provided so much value to HSBC. How should HSBC reward them?
Yes.
You mentioned Anna, but how many people would you let into the hackathon?
Thank you for your question. There will be a lot of participants attracted to this hackathon, but we are only screening 20 people to join teams of 4 people per group. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Just on the same theme, how would you weigh doing a one-off hackathon versus a ongoing 365 days a year program, and anyone who is able to do something gets rewarded based on validation? How have you weighed up the one-off versus continuous nature of this thing?
Thank you for your question. So since our system is now a reactive approach and we need to constantly identify new approaches to identify the frauds, so we are proposing a quarterly hackathon, which is held every 3 months to ensure the frauds are identified constantly for systems improvements as the technology and AI are constantly evolving. So we are not doing it one-off as the techniques needs to keep updated to HSBC. Thank you.
Regarding on this, what will be the cost incurred, for HSBC if they carry out this kind of hackathon? Second question is you talk about the NDA and as well as the way that protect the HSBC from the privacy perspective. But have you checked with the local Hong Kong MA or local monetary authorities? Are they allowed you guys to do it?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. It's a great question, and we definitely considered some of the costs. So I'll go down to the breakdown, and we'll talk about this later on in the session. But to give you a very quick overview, our overall cost will be around $160 million across 5 years to execute this program. How this comes from and how do we mitigate and generate cost savings that outweigh this, we'll get to later on. Ivana, second part.
Thank you, Rex. So we have checked with our NDA with the HKMA and government regulations, and we found that it is actually a legally binding rule to sign this contract as we have listed every single rule detailedly to avoid violation. And we have also implemented, since the whole entire duration is held inside HSBC's facilities, this can further enhance prevents the violation of the rules.
But how about if the hacker or maybe this participant is non-Hong Kongese? Will they subject to other, regulation in, let's say, in UK or other location?
Thank you very much for this question. And this is actually one of the key considerations when building a recommendation. This is why our recommendation has an inbuilt mitigation feature. We have localized contests across the 62 operating markets of HSBC that to tailor it to the rules of each authority in each location. So basically, we don't have overseas participants coming into the Hong Kong competition. They'll be in their local competition. Thank you very much for the question.
Do you have talent in the Hong Kong market to do this? Have you assessed that to your comment? Because this is quite niche and quite worldwide, right?
Yes.
So how would you go about thinking about where you source that talent from?
Thank you very much. There are an approximate 80 million bug bounty hunters currently active on bug bounty platforms in a source backed by various research institutes. So with this source, we understand that Hong Kong actually has a breakdown of 1.5% according to Nexus AI research. So there's sufficient number of experts available for us to capture. And this is how we capture them, as we just explained. Thank you very much for the question.
Well, let's go back to where we left off. So after Anna has successfully identified the loophole, HSBC will now provide the promised benefits to Anna, who successfully found the loophole. So, to fuel sustained engagement and to continuous discovery of hidden vulnerabilities, we introduce a tiered reward system, starting off with a grand prize of $100K US for full bypass and a consolation prize of $30K US for partial bypass. And this encourages participants for continuous breakthroughs and to align with the financial incentive of the actual hacker. And to HSBC, this encouraged continuous data collection for collecting up-to-date emerging threats, improving current fraud detection capabilities, and creating a win-win situation.
So is the aim to keep Anna in multiple rounds of the hackathon, or every hackathon you'd have new candidates come through?
Thank you for your question. So as Anna is one of the participants, we do encourage her to join anytime. Like after she joins one time for our HSB contest, she is always welcome to continue joining our contest. As we know that these emerging frauds, we cannot predict them when and where are they. And if Anna has the expertise to identify the loopholes, we always welcome her to come back and to offer them a reward if she succeeds. Yes, so let's go back to where we left off. So now to HSBC, we encourage them for the data collection for up-to-date emerging data and to create a win-win situation by improving its existing fraud detection capabilities. So now, after Anna has successfully identified the loophole, what should HSBC do in this situation? So, each identified vulnerabilities in our HSB contest doesn't represent a failure, but actually a guaranteed opportunity for upgrading our existing live defense system. So after Anna have identified the loophole and then passed the simulation test, she actually triggers the critical upgrade cycle for our training and refinement. So how do we actually do that? We utilize the training framework called a generative adversarial network composed of two parts. with the first being a generator, which extracts the loopholes from HSB Contest to provide training data sets. And these training data sets will then pass on to our discriminator, which will be challenged whether this data set is a real or fake identity. And with this continuous identity challenge, we keep on refining our discriminator, which is our fraud detection system, with additional data sets for more practice and additional long-term improvements. So now, as our contest goes on, it keeps on stress testing our fraud detection system and providing the latest recent updates for the most emerging frauds in the market. And for here, it's encouraged continuous data collection for these up-to-date emerging threats, and also turning our strategy from reactive to proactive, and most importantly, it's predictive to make sure we're always one step ahead of these emerging frauds. So now, with the scheme complete, most importantly is how do we actually implement it in the reality. We start out with a phase 1 of foundation and scoping by building up a secure and legally compliant foundation. We will develop a digital twin, and also drafting documents like these bounty agreements and the legal requirements to make sure that we have a safe and secure environment for our participants. And then, for after 3 months, we will have a pilot scheme in Hong Kong to ensure smooth logistics for our contest, and also making sure our data collected is important for model training. And now, after 6 months, we will have recruitment schemes on university teams for engineering enthusiasts and also startup talents. If everything goes well, we will continue to scale up globally by creating regional competitions in India or UK, and to include the diversity in the offensive strategies and improving our training. So now, HSBC had 3 most important problems originally in our cybersecurity system. With them, the teams being too reactive, we mitigate this by our proactive HSB contest by creating emerging frauds by identifying them actively. And secondly, with the fragmented and poor data due to the siloed and limited nature, we mitigate this by encouraging continuous data collection through monetary incentives. And finally, with the blind spots due to internal teams, we mitigate this through our diverse ideation. And with this, we encourage increased identified vulnerabilities and also increase annual cost savings, and most importantly, reduce the AI-related fraud incidents. So Rex, how do we quantify these impacts?
Thank you very much. We measure our success on a few key fronts by firstly being productive to generate plentiful insights into novel fraudulent practices. And by 2029, we hope that our scheme will be able to discover over 2,600 useful data points to train our internal systems. We then effectively translate these data into tangible improvements in fraud detection, ultimately reducing the number of AI-driven fraud incidents by 53,000. With a reduction in AI-driven fraud incidents, we hence drive annual fraud-related cost savings of $147 million. But how do we get these numbers? We start with 224 contests per year, generating 3,000 ideas for us, HSBC. And with 30% of these ideas being useful for us, we hence accrue a massive 2,000 accrued vulnerabilities database, which serves as the data points for our AI refinements. With an increase in data points, we hence increase the precision and accuracy of our data systems to reduce overall the number of fraudulent transactions, logins, and account creations, driving massive cost savings as HSBC can save on expenses such as reimbursements and forensic costs. But what does it look like in the big picture? A 9% reduction in annual fraud expenditure is what we're really excited to tell you about. But more importantly, internally, the 2029 standalone cost savings covers the capital expenditures by 4 times, justifying a massive cost to benefit ratio. All in all, our systems and HSB Contest is not only impactful, but justifiable. But of course, in order to earn, we have to spend. So what are our costs? Our cost bucket is $166 million, driven by operational expenditures in technology and price costs, and capital expenditures in technology and physical investment. But with a payback period of only around 4 years, this ensures no liquidity or insolvency issues. But not only are we cost effective, we're time effective too, taking only around half a year to pilot. In order to achieve maximal impact and a minimal time cost, tomorrow we have to source digital twin partners, ideate contest rules, and prepare our internal teams for this massive development. The most lethal weapon in 2025 is AI fraud, and HSBC originally stood exposed thanks to a non-proactive approach and a lack of accurate training data that renders our current systems unoptimized. We hence resolve this with HSB Contest, a global hackathon that crowdsources ethical hackers to find and fix problems before they become nightmares, providing us with insights and data to optimize our systems, ultimately driving a reduction in AI-driven fraud incidents to create cost savings. Judges, why don't we revolutionize how HSBC approaches fraud together? Thank you so much for your time. We welcome any questions. Thank you.
Time is up. Thank you. We'll now move forward to the Q&A session. Q&A session starts now.
You had 3 points. So if you go back a few slides, there was this 3 things that you said were a challenge that you're trying to fix. I think maybe, something there. So 1, 2, and 3. From your analysis, which one would you say is number 1?
We think that firstly, the too reactive problem is the number 1 factor because we find that HSBC fraud management system is just based on training data and like the known fraud and known pattern. But we find that like the AI development is developing very quickly and we cannot solve this issue nowadays. So that's why we need to have some crowd ideation for us to know that what kind of new fraud data will happen.
So, considering the digital twin environment, what kind of cost that you really taking into account?
I'll take that question. Thank you so much. So in terms of our digital twin system, we see our major cost bucket in the capital expenditures, including the acquisition and creation costs with $12 million, labor costs to optimize it, an API setup cost, synthetic data creation costs, and other miscellaneous costs, totaling a cost bucket of $31 million. So that's what it takes to get this digital twin up and running. But the costs don't stop there because we understand that we have to continuously optimize this digital twin. So aside from only having capital expenditures, year by year, we will spend around 10% of that capital expenditure allocation in improving our system, ensuring that the system is as up-to-date and accurate as possible.
So considering that huge amount of investment, how you convince HSBC to invest?
Thank you so much for that question, because again, $166 million is a huge amount. But let me bring your attention to 2 key points. Number 1, we can organically cover all the costs. The total inflow value of our recommendation is around $300 million, whilst the outflow value is only $166 million. That's a 3.18 times profitability ratio, which means that our scheme is obviously very good for HSBC. But what if HSBC doesn't want to shell out this amount of money? Well, my answer would be that HSBC has ample cash reserves and resources to actually implement this. Taking a look at the 2024 data for HSBC Hong Kong, we understand that they have $211 billion in cash reserves, which means that they have plenty of money in order to invest. So that would be my 2 key points. Thank you.
So, what, 200-something hackathons a year? Was that the number? 4 in 52 markets, so 200-something. It's going to take quite a big team just to manage that process. Have you factored that into your costs? And what kind of team, size of team are you looking at just to manage the hackathon process?
Thank you. I'll first answer the consideration, and we have both in the capital expenditure for creation of a team to actually create the digital twin and manage synthetic data creation, and also in our operational expenditures where we actually have a labor cost embedded in the technology cost within the 10% as well. Yeah. And on the second point?
Thank you. So in terms of operating across a global hackathon, but to test its effectiveness, we will first be having a hackathon in Hong Kong by the end of 2025. And if the hackathon is a successful one, we will try to expand to other regions where there are most cybersecurity experts are located, such as in UK and India. And if it still works, we will try to expand to other regions as well. Thank you.
And just an approximate team size count, we expect that the team size to completely run and continuously support this hackathon will be around 10 to 12 people for implementation and logistics, which is benchmarked off a lot of different case competitions, including this one. So with 1 minute left, we understand that we have no more time for new questions. So let's wrap up. HSBC's problems is a lack of proactiveness and diversity in idea generation, leading to a lack of accuracy in AI detection systems. HSB Contest is the definitive solution that helps to reconcile the problems of the future to the present. Thank you so much for your time, and we really hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Legacy Consulting.